like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to our evening version of our board meeting. And if I could ask Supervisor Diamond to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the clerk to do the roll call, please.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Merlino? Mr. Stroud? Mr. Weil?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Ms. Seaver? Here. Mr. Beatty?
Here, in all my
Ms.
living
Buckley?
glory, yep.
Ms. Shepler? Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Thomas?
Here.
Quorum is established.
Good. Thank you. At this time, do we have anyone from Congresswoman Stefanik's office online, or I don't believe we do. And Senator Little and Assemblyman Steck are not here this evening either. So the next item is Mr. Landry. But before we move to Mr. Landry, I would like Ryan would like to speak about public health momentarily.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Janelle is here tonight, and this is our evening meeting of the year, and we're in prime time for those who are watching on YouTube, and we hope that that means more people than usual are watching. And we asked Janelle to come up and be available for any questions that the public might have on COVID. But that was just the pretext to get her here, because we want her here to say thank you, not just to Janelle, but to Pat and to the entire department for doing such a great job throughout this whole pandemic. And we have not been doing our Employee of the Month presentations, and we have not decided when we will start doing those presentations. And part of the reason is social distancing and not having a crowded room here. But we do want to present an award to you on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and the people of Warren County. And we figured out a compliant way to do that. We have a member of your household here to make that presentation. If this is Chris Jones, this is Janelle's husband. And we would like you to, Janelle, to accept an award as Employee of the Year on behalf of all of us. And I know, Janelle, you don't want to be singled out, and neither do I. And but as you say to me, it's leadership that moves things forward in the right direction. And your department, day and night, since the very beginning, has given all of us motivation to do what we've had to do. And a lot of the accolades you hear in the community are for things that have been done because of the effects of the pandemic. We've been dealing with the effects of the closure and the effects of the reopening and the effects of all of the rules. You're dealing with the pandemic. You've talked to 377 people that have had this, and their families and friends and neighbors, thousands of people who've been in quarantine. These are people you've gotten to know personally, people you've cared about, people that it's been difficult to experience these things with them. And that's you and your staff, and it's due to your leadership. And without that, none of the other stuff matters. Without containing this pandemic the way you have, everything that we've done is meaningless because we're not in a position to do it. So with that in mind, thank you, and we hope you'll accept this award. Thanks, Janelle. You don't have to say anything. We hope you go home and rest. You're all deserving, and we hope you accept it on behalf of all of them, because it's your leadership and their hard work that's gotten us through this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. You don't have to say it now.
Good night. Next, I would like to extend the privilege of the floor to Mr. Landry, who is the Executive Director of the Glens Falls Housing Authority, and I see his name up there.
I'm here.
How are you this evening?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And that was a nice segue into what I would like to say this evening on behalf of the Glens Falls Housing Authority. Whenever we in government do something wrong or not correct or it's not acceptable but to the people that we represent, we sure hear about it. Tonight, I'd like to acknowledge the Warren County Public Health Office for the above and beyond call of duty work that they're doing in our county during an unprecedented pandemic. Janelle Jones, Pat Belden, and a host of other health office employees have become household names to our agency. They have become a wonderful comfort to our over 250 senior citizens. In a statewide Zoom discussion with my counterparts in the public housing industry, they all tell me when I tell them about the support we receive from our county that they do not have that kind of support. Believe me, I'm proud to spread the word on the wonderful job these county employees are doing. They are available to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as you just mentioned. I sometimes think they worry more about our seniors than we do, and we worry about them a lot. So I'd like to send them and you, the Board of Supervisors, our thanks for a job that's not over yet, but has been very well done. I'd also like to just take a second here and advise you on a major revitalization project about to commence at the Glens Falls Housing Authority involving a $35 million redevelopment of our entire affordable housing portfolio. This involves a complete rebuild of our 3 senior high rises and the replacement of our La Rose Gardens family affordable housing project. This project, which will commence in 2020 and has been in the works for the last 4 years, will secure modern, ADA compliant and energy efficient affordable housing for the people we serve throughout the county. We also just recently began a program called Foster Youth Independence, whereby your county Department of Social Services will have access through the Glens Falls Housing Authority to now apply for rental assistance vouchers to youth exiting the foster care program to help them establish themselves in our communities and create a path to independence for them. From time of application to time of occupancy by the individual, they are assisted in 90 days or less, which is basically unheard of. So we've been busy here, but we really just wanted to acknowledge Janelle and her group. Janelle, if you are still in the room, they wouldn't give me a flu shot the other day if you'd look into that, because they had to get them to all the seniors in the building first. So listen, you did a wonderful job. We appreciate the county's support. And I think the rest of this pandemic will be a little easier for us all to digest with people like her and the entire staff of the County Health Department working for our benefit every day. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Landry, and thank you very much for the kind words. It's very much appreciated. Okay, next we need a motion to approve the minutes from the September 18th board meeting and subject to correction by the clerk. Moved by Supervisor McDevitt, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Call question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Next item is a report by the chairman of the board, and my report is rather short. September 21st and 22nd, like most of us, I attended the committee meetings. September 28th, Economic Development Committee meeting, Tourism and Occupancy Tax. On September 30th, I attended the Adirondack Local Government Review Board in Long Lake with Supervisor Garrity. October 1st was the first joint personnel and public safety meeting about the OES director. And following that was the Personnel and Finance Committee meetings. On October 13th, I attended that was yesterday, I attended by Zoom, the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board meeting. And also the second joint personnel public safety meeting. This morning, myself and Edna and John Stroh attended the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council meeting. We did do some amendments and move some projects forward. A major project in Washington County that will take place in 23-24. The City of Glens Falls, Webster Avenue rehab, and the Glen Street signals. And the last one was for the New York State Department of Transportation. That's region 1 wide for wrong way and bridge clearance signing. I did receive a letter from Supervisor Bramer, and also I think Sarah Frankenfeld had a hand in writing the letter. However, at Sarah's advice, I held off on signing it or sending it. The deadline was extended, well, until October 31st, but that's since been changed, I guess, by the Supreme Court. And it ends, I believe, that's the wrap up by the end of this week. So the letter still sits on my desk, but it was a very nice letter and very well done. And that concludes my report. Next, we have reports by committee chairman on past month's meetings, and Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having a little trouble with the video. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. On September 22nd, the Public Works Committee met, represented in your packet by one item, Resolution 376, which is an easement to Slick Network to install a broadband cabinet on county property at Thurman Station. It passed the committee unanimously, and I wholly endorse it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Actually, Supervisor Conover was not the first one. Supervisor Diamond was the first one.
What's that now?
There will be no committee report.
Thank you. Supervisor McDevitt.
No committee report.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you so much. Environmental concerns and real property met twice in the last month. We had our regular meeting earlier actually it was at the end of September, towards the end of September, and we have two resolutions for you from that meeting. One is on the Green Amendment to the New York State Constitution, and I would ask for your support on that one. We also met later. Some people will recall we had to have special conferences with the judge in the real property foreclosure proceeding, and Attorney Terwilliger represented us there and came back with 4 property owners who had the money to be able to pay and wanted to do that so that they could have their properties removed from the foreclosure. We gave them an opportunity to pay, and according to the information I have, they did come in and pay. So we have 4 less properties, but 4 more property owners who are happy and able to stay as owners of their property and good taxpayers. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Human Services Committee met this past month. There's no resolutions this evening coming out of that meeting. Our next meeting will be this Monday, October 19th, on or about a little before 11 o'clock. This afternoon, I had an opportunity to sit in on a Zoom meeting with the Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce's Nonprofit Business Council. There were 13 different not-for-profits, including Glens Falls Hospital, CWI, SUDI Adirondack, two of our county's larger employers, in addition to other not-for-profits. And certainly COVID was the focus of our discussion, but also ensuring that residents of the county are getting the services that they need and that there's good communication. I also encourage them to reach out to the county's COVID task force and to get that information shared to the public. Also this past Friday, I had an opportunity to join some supervisors at the invitation of Supervisor Molino. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get back to participate in a meeting that the Zero Waste Committee, which is identifying some issues that they have with our solid waste plan. But I am pleased that Kevin Hajos has become actively involved in communicating with these groups of private citizens. I hope to continue to do that also going forward. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On October 1st, the Finance Committee met. As a result of that, we have resolutions 364, 365, 384 through 393. 384 and 385 are airport resolutions establishing capital projects. As we go down through 387, 389, authorizing the county treasurer to return funds to the general fund, the county road fund, the road machinery fund. Then we have 390, 391, which is authorizing the county treasurer to liquidate funds from the assigned fund balance. And then 392, declaring surplus and authorizing the sale and transfer of the Atlantic 6-ton tilt bed trailer to the town of Stony Creek from the Department of Public Works. And 393 deals with information technology, authorizing the appropriation of funds from the computer reserve. As Mr. Thomas mentioned, we attended by Zoom the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council this morning, and yesterday I was also part of the Lake George Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board. And with that, I'm sure Mr. Swan has something for us. Thank you, Mr. Swan.
Good evening, everybody. Just a few things to go over. I'm sure that you all saw the sales tax report that we sent out. We're down about 4%, which in my opinion is great because where we have been through parts of the year, this is quite an improvement. We still have one more payment coming from September, so it might even be better. And I was talking to the county administrators through emails the other day, and my gut feeling tells me that we're probably going to be about 2% off by the time everything is all said and done, which, considering what we went through, I think is pretty good. We don't want to lose, but that's not a bad one. So on the other side of that, we're still down $2 million plus in state reimbursements on programs and so forth. We have seen a little bit come in, but not very much. Occupancy tax, some of the properties are late with their returns. In other words, we haven't seen the same number of returns or payments coming in that we normally see this time of year. So I really can't get a handle on where we are yet. And I'm hoping that they pick up here in the next month or so and they'll be late and they'll be paying the penalties. But so we'll see where that goes. And on another note, I'm sure that everybody has seen the articles in the paper about the subpoenas that we issued to Airbnb to get their list of host properties within Warren County. To say the least, that's touched some nerves some places, but we are dealing with it. And the last I knew, we should have that list sometime the first part of next week. Questions? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Vaughn.
Is that it for your report?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry.
Supervisor Simpson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personnel Administration and Joint Public Safety met on September 23rd. We had a very busy month. We had several meetings. This meeting in particular was to conduct candidate interviews for the Director of Office of Emergency Services. And we ended up having another joint personnel administrative public safety meeting on October 1st to continue those interviews. We had a regular personnel administration meeting on October 1st after the interviews. And out of that meeting, we had several resolutions starting with 378 through 383. There were, those are not really anything, picking this up. Siri. Sorry about that. I'll start out. The first one, 378 is amending tables of organization, Warren County salary compensation plan for 2020. 379 is rescinding a resolution number 287 of 2020, which authorized an agreement with Henderson Products to purchase a mobile brine making unit for the Department of Public Works, if it's not needed. 380 was authorizing memorandums of understanding between Warren County and various municipalities for the use of the mobile brine making unit. 381, we had to terminate a Department of Social Services attorney. 382, we rescinded a resolution number 332 of 2020, which authorized the continuation of an agreement with Neiman Ford for repairs at various coordinates within the county sheriff's office. 383 was awarding a bid and authorizing agreement with Neiman Ford as a dealer for repairs, which is correct technicalities in the resolution. And then yesterday, October 13th, we had another joint personnel administrative public safety meeting to discuss matters with the appointment of our new Office of Emergency Services Director. And at the appropriate time, I would ask to bring floor resolution number 2 to the floor. I will say that this process has been very lengthy. It was interrupted through COVID, which made it more complicated to get to a final person, candidate. And but I will say that we had many uniquely qualified candidates. And it was a very difficult process to go through. We really had some challenges. And I think going forward, we've a great director at the appropriate time to set up.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Extension services continues to stay relevant during this shift in our whole society. They have managed to move forward with archery programming. They are planning to run another Master Gardener program next winter, and they're accepting applications at this point. They have been present at farmers markets throughout the county doing education on all sorts of things from plant-based diets to handing out recipes on how to use fresh produce. Moving forward, they will be hosting Achievement Day in a virtual setting this year. Normally everybody gathers and celebrates what the kids have been doing for 4-H So we're going to be doing it virtually. They will also be holding a class on preparing your garden for winter. That's October 22nd. They are having their annual volunteer recognition and annual meeting also virtually, and you are all invited to attend. And always holding Game of Logging, the ever fun chainsaw classes. And thank you to the town of Chester for hosting this upcoming class. On another note, as a member of Environmental Concerns, I'm hoping you'll all support Resolution 370. If you're not paying attention to environmental issues, you're not paying attention at this point. And in this era where everything seems really divided and partisan, I would find nothing so exciting as to see us all support the Green Amendment unanimously. I just think that would be a great show of what we can do together. I also am asking for your support of 376. That's the Slick easement in Thurman. That is a really important connection for broadband for our side of the county. So please support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Caught me off guard. I was waiting for a few others to speak. But there's no resolutions from the Economic Growth and Development Committee. We met on the 22nd and the 28th of September. On the 28th was a special meeting with Jim Siplan, who's leading the Warren County Economic Development Corporation. We talked about his priorities, the synergies that they're looking for, the investments they are planning to make. And I think we're on the right track with that. Mr. Siplan is here if there's any questions from the committee or the board members today. In addition, the Economic Recovery Task Force continues to meet weekly. With that, so does the Hospitality Communications Group. And as a result of some of the questions that have come up through some of the committee meetings we've had in the past, I've asked as many in the Economic Recovery Task Force, the members of that task force, to join the committee meeting next Tuesday, I believe that's the 20th, for an update to all the supervisors and to the community in general about where we're going, what the challenges are, what we've tried to accomplish to date, and our outlook for the future. So I look forward to that conversation with the supervisors next week. One other thing I might have mentioned at the last time we met, but for the public, the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Chamber has received a federal grant, and they're offering business loans at 1.9%. So this is an opportunity for businesses. I know many have struggled, but it's a program that they may qualify for. And if they're interested, to reach out to Beth Gillis and her team. And hopefully we can use that money to help some of our Warren County and regional businesses. And Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's my report for this month.
Thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I gotta have 1.5 in there. Resolutions, support services met on September 21st. Really budgetary items in that for all the departments, which is always very interesting and really a joy to go through the process. It's really amazing what our departments do, and I'm very proud to see where they could save and really work, even though it didn't seem like a whole lot of money. A lot of my departments work with really a small amount of budget money. So what little they did, I'm very happy and pleased, and I thank them for doing that. But the one resolution I have is 377 that was brought up from the Board of Elections, was agreement with ICE, which is the accessible voting machine. And we had 3 options, an original outright purchase for $275,100, or an 8-year down payment situation, which was $293,967, or a 7-year lease with, get this, remember everybody, with maintenance and training for $3,006.20, $3,006.26. $306,026. That's how I wanted to say it. So, after, discussing and going around the training and the maintenance on these machines, we decided that, the committee decided that really leasing was the best way to go, especially the way technology is constantly changing. And these machines are being mandated, to be at every little polling place. So, and then, in this way, we're covered, so we don't have a catastrophe where one went's down and then we're running to that zoning and trying to, fix it that. So, so I hope we have that support for you on 377 there with the ice, Dominion ice machines there. The half one I have, which came in after support services, which I ended up calling in to see what we could do. And Edna was, Supervisor Frazier was more than happy to oblige in helping out support services, was ratifying the actions of the commissioners of the Board of Elections in executing a grant application to the Centers for Tech and Civic Life for the purpose of planning and operating a safe and secure election administration. I would like to, do I want to say pull this one back for further review by our attorney?
Sure.
Is that, there's a lot of things that came into light afterwards, and this is an important grant, but the way this grant is set up, there's a few questions, and I think it might be best if we pull it back just so it was a grant that it didn't have 180 pages to it. It was actually filled out online. And it didn't really come with all the contracts and everything else. So we're waiting for all that to come in and be reviewed by our attorney's office. So if that's all right, if I can make a motion to push 386 off to for further review by our attorney once we get that in, if that would be all right.
Okay, we have a motion to withdraw 386, moved by Supervisor McGowan. We have a second. Supervisor Driscoll. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, carry on.
And I believe that's the last of my half that I have to talk about. So thanks very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, resolution 369 is before you for criminal justice. We met on September 21st. That resolution relates to applying for a grant for a youth re-entering the community application. I also have had an opportunity this month, probably like many of you, to attend the NISAC online training, which has been very informative. And I really appreciate the unanimous support that came out of the Occupancy Tax Committee to start looking at a modification and a proposal of both the scoring sheet and the application process. And I've been busy meeting with many different stakeholders at all different levels to be able to try to develop a document that our committee can take a look at in the very near future. And lastly, and probably most importantly in my mind, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And if many of you have walked through the front of the building, you'll see that our bricks have started to go into the walkway. And so I really wanted to thank Kevin Hejos and Frank Morehouse for the hard work that they've been doing to make sure that not only are our victims honored, but we are not exempt from horrific crimes and those of domestic violence. And we do have victims, unfortunately, that lost their lives and were murdered as victims of domestic violence, and their bricks are in our walkway now in front of Warren County. So I do think that's a significant progress. I hope that we're able to honor and have some type of a very small COVID compliance ceremony with our district attorney and others at some point in the near future before the snow hits. But I wanted to let you know, if you're seeing the bricks out there and some, progress, thank you for your support on that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Facilities met on the 20th. There's a few resolutions in front of you, 367, 368, and 369. 367 is just authorizing an agreement with CNS Engineers to provide consulting for the snow removal equipment storage building. 367, authorizing the agreement with Jacob Civil Engineering to provide consulting services related to the rehabilitation of the taxway lighting system. We're mandated by the FAA to do that. And 368 is authorizing a lease agreement with Freer Ideas Incorporated to conduct fighter training, aircraft rental, and other services related to conducting business as a flight training operator at the Warren County Airport. This one received a lot of back and forth emails. I know Mr. McGowan had some concerns. And what I'd like to do at this point is turn this over to Mr. Hajos and let him opine on that particular resolution. So Mr. Hajos, if it's all right with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to him.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to make this fairly quick. The bottom line is Harrison Freer was operating out of the airport. He's probably been operating for the last 10 years out there without a contract. He was operating a flight school and apparently was doing some rental of his airplane to licensed pilots. Don had attended a seminar concerning having contracts in place and the type of assurance that they were required, or the typical accidents that would happen at an airport, and making sure that everybody who has a contract on an airport similar to our county has a contract in place and has that assurance. So with that being said, we had asked Harrison to enter into a contract with the county for his operations. I don't know if, and I don't believe the board has seen the contract yet, but it's only for flight training and nothing else. I received an email, which I believe Ryan had sent out to others today, stating that the only operation that Harrison is proposing out there is to do flight training, and that's it. And based on that, the insurance company, Gallagher Insurance, responded previously to an email, I think from our county attorney's office, requesting a certain amount of insurance requirements. And for the most part, I think he has provided that. I think there's a few minor issues like maybe workman's comp or employee, some type of employee insurance that is missing. But that's the long and short of it, is he's only going to do a flight school, flight training out there, and nothing more beyond that.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any questions from the supervisors concerning that resolution? Because it is a little.
I've got a question, Doug. Peter?
Peter?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Doug. As it relates to the insurance requirements, maybe our attorney can answer this in terms of, have all the insurance requirements been signed off by the insurance company, and in the lease that Harrison will sign, do we have that lease in hand to talk about?
All the insurance requirements are met for a flight school, not renting out his aircraft. And I sent a lease to my office, Ryan Moore, Kevin Hagos, and Don DeGraw tonight to review. I would like them to review it before it's sent out to the entire board.
Okay, any other questions? Supervisor Seaver, about this issue.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to have more dialogue about this at the appropriate time for resolutions. So I mean, I do have questions about this, but would you prefer we wait till we really debate resolution?
No, we can debate this right now, as long as we cover it.
Sure. I don't think it comes as any surprise. I know myself, Supervisor Ryan, and many supervisors here have all tried very hard to read contracts ahead of time and understand both the positives, the negatives, and see those different loopholes. Make sure that it's good for our taxpayer and we're protecting those dollars. And Mary's been very responsive to me in terms of meeting and providing the information. But the bottom line is I have not seen a contract, and it is, I definitely feel strongly that we should not be voting on things not only may be problematic, but given the complexities around this issue, I'm certainly, if this comes to a vote, not supporting it. And I appreciate everyone's time and effort, and I hope that it can be hammered out in a way that is transparent and the best for our community and our airport and those users. So, Doug, I appreciate your bringing it forward, but to me, it's premature. I don't even know the particulars of what's in an agreement. We can't take a look at it before we decide to vote. So, just that. Just wanted to make sure you. I don't really know where I'm going with this. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. More comments, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a long couple of weeks here, and it's been, for me, kind of difficult because it's not something that I normally do. But as I started doing my research and looking into the Bistro plane and asking questions and calling, making phone calls down to the airport, Don McGraw and Kevin and everyone, and moving forward and finding out, more about the insurance and then everything that comes involved with moving it forward. I just find a huge liability here, for the county. And I just want to make sure that we don't jump into anything without everything, the T's crossed and the dots perfect, not that everything can be totally perfect, but I really would like to be able to review this contract because I still have some questions. I'm happy to hear that, the rental end of the plane rental end in that, will be, will not be involved until we can work out the insurance differences. But I would really like to have a chance to review what was drawn up after the initial crew has gone through it. So I would be voting no on that proposal.
Mr. Chairman, may I offer a compromise position?
Yes.
Obviously, we don't have the contract. Okay, no one has seen the contract. It hasn't even been written up yet. But we want it to be fair to Mr. Freer. We want to be fair to all parties concerned. That's why I actually invited him to my last facilities meeting and allowed him to participate via Zoom, which is kind of a rarity. So what if, since we don't have the contract, and I know supervisors like Seaver and Bramer and even McGowan and other supervisors like to actually read the contract before they vote on it, which makes a lot of sense. What if we added the resolution to the special board meeting in a few weeks so that we don't delay Mr. Freer's opportunity to participate in his business? I don't know. That's just an option. Actually, Ms. Bramer came up with that today when just talking with her. I think it's a good option. That way the contract can be sent out to all the supervisors and they can have a chance to actually read the contract and make sure they're comfortable. Thoughts, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. The next meeting is November 6th, Friday at 10 o'clock. So that gives you, about 3 weeks. That's not a bad idea. I'll accept that.
Okay, I'm not sure how we go forward with that. When it comes up to resolutions, we look for an amendment maybe or something, or.
Do you want to move to withdraw it at this point?
Do I want to withdraw it? I'd like to amend it. I want him to have I want him to stay in business, once we have a contract signed and so forth. Since we don't even have a contract yet, obviously it's hard to do that. But how do we amend? Can we amend the resolution saying that it will be revisited on November 6th? Or, I mean, I want to get this guy in business as quick as possible, as long as we all concur that the contract is correct. So how do we do that?
You can move the table and it'll still be, you just have to bring it back off the table.
So we table it tonight, we bring it back up on the special board meeting, is that correct,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman? I think that will be the best option, because to be frank with you, I'm not sure it'll pass tonight. I think there's enough supervisors that have concerns about not having a contract yet in place that unfortunately, I don't think it would pass tonight. And so then it would go down in flames. So I want to keep this alive. I want to help Mr. Ferrer. So I'll move to table this.
Okay.
And that way we can get it on the very next special board meeting and get them up and running.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Beatty to table resolutions 368, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. And who is opposed? Mr. McDevitt? Anyone else? Andrew? Anyone else opposed? Mr. Garrity? Okay. So the motion or the resolution is tabled. Anything else, Supervisor Beatty?
No, I was just going to make one final comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was pleased this week to see that Supervisor Stroud and the Queensbury Town Board decided against suing a Queensbury mother and using Queensbury taxpayer dollars to sue her over her First Amendment rights. Clearly, the town was wrong. They had no right. They had no case. More importantly, is First Amendment rights are so important to every single one of us. And singling out a mother in the town was obviously the wrong position to take. And I'm glad Mr. Stroud and the board came to their senses and decided to back away from challenging the First Amendment. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Garrity?
No report.
Okay. Supervisor Leggett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Service Committee met on September 21st to review budgets and building codes, Fire Safety Office, Office of Emergency Services, Scott PWI Traffic Safety, and the Sheriff's Office. We've also met jointly with Personnel Administration Committee regarding Office of the Emergency Services Director on September 23rd, October 1st, October 13th. As the supervisor, Simpson, chairman of Personnel Administration, has said, we have more resolutions to be brought forward regarding that at the appropriate time. On your agenda, there's resolution number 374 and 375. Number 374 is authorizing agreement with Roselle Industries to fabricate and install the bailout system at the Fire Training Center for the Office of Emergency Services. This is one of the last additions onto the fire safety training building. 375 is authorizing agreement with Black Creek Integrated System Corp. For booking and management software, hardware, and necessary maintenance for the Warren County Correctional Facility. Also, I sit on the Soil Water Conservation District Board as the director. You will see, you might have seen in the news, where we have the Warren County Tree Challenge now. And everybody is invited to participate in that. And cooperation with the Warren County Planning, GIS, Sarah Frankenfeld, getting this all online. So it's a new activity for us to all share it. That's my report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Report by the county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Janelle, true to form, actually did do a report for us tonight, so I don't want that to go to waste. The totals for the pandemic, I mentioned thousands in the quarantines, and that's true. 979 mandatory quarantines, 554 precautionary quarantines, 1,593 travel quarantines. These are all individuals. That's about 3,000, quick math. And these are people that are being talked to every day for many days in a row and have questions and everything else. It's been a real Herculean effort. 5 days in a row as of this morning with no additional cases, as you all know, and 6 was too good to be true. We've got 2 additional cases that we'll report out tomorrow morning. Hopefully, those will be the only 2 additional that we get today. Don Lehman's been working with the state of Vermont in light of the downtick that we've had. Our reading is that we ought to move on the Vermont travel restrictions, but we didn't move as expected on the Vermont travel restrictions. So Don reached out to the state to try to see if we can fix that. But if we can't, the way I see it, our leaves are better and our maple syrup is better, and we probably wouldn't go there anyway. So that's okay with me. We have one notable anniversary this month. It's 20 years for Cynthia Cameron and DSS. Congratulations to Cynthia on 20 years over there. As Supervisor Simpson indicated, we do have a individual who's been nominated to be our next emergency services director, and she's accepted that offer of employment at the entry-level salary of $69,500. Her first day will be the November 3rd, as long as her appointment is approved tonight. And I'm very proud to announce that that individual is Anne-Marie Mason. Anne-Marie's got 10 plus years in the emergency management field. As Matt mentioned, she was chosen out of a field of about a dozen great candidates who applied for this position and 4 stellar finalists. It was a tough choice. And I've never been part of a recruitment for a position like this that's produced so many quality finalists. So we were fortunate in that capacity. Anne-Marie, since October 2018, has been the manager of risk management for Hudson Headwaters Health Network, where she handles emergency management, drills, training, planning for over 19 locations, incident investigations, root cause analysis, risk assessments. She, before that, did some work with Union College. And prior to that, for 8.5 years, she was the safety compliance coordinator and chief emergency officer for the Queensbury School District. And again, very well versed in emergency planning for the school district. They had a bomb scare when she was in that position, and she successfully led an evacuation of the entire campus in a very short amount of time. So she's had some real experience out there with players in this field in the county. She is going to be a good manager, a good professional, and we're very happy to have her on board. So those are floor resolutions 1 and 2 tonight. And just to wrap up, again, since it's hopefully we have more people than usual in the business community listening, I get questions every day from the sectors that are still closed as to what their status is. So I just briefly wanted to go through those. From a business reopening standpoint, the 50-person non-essential gathering limit is still the limit, and there's not anything immediately on the horizon that suggests that 50 people will be increased. Churches are still at 50%. Restaurants are still at 50%. There's some speculation as to whether restaurants can go to 75. Again, no indication from the state that is in the cards anytime soon. We're holding at 50, and so far so good on the numbers for the capital region. Here are the sectors that are still closed. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it is the ones that I get the most frequent calls on each day. Arenas, amusement parks, go-karts, trampoline parks, arcades, family fun centers, laser tag, skating rinks, theaters, hot air balloon, helicopter, and airplane sightseeing, rodeos, billiard halls, again, all closed. Those sectors are not allowed to be open at this time. the past 2 days, I've had a lot of inquiries over the phone and over email regarding two recent announcements as to things that have been opened up north of us in Essex County. One of those is the Cliffside Coaster, which is a construction of the state of New York as property of Orta. It has been billed as a year-round mountain coaster, the longest of its kind in the United States. It was opened up by the state of New York on October 11th. We have had questions from those sectors as to why a cliffside roller coaster can be open and amusement parks and family fun centers and go-karts and these things cannot be open. I think it's a very good question. I've raised the question yesterday with the control room, and today we had some back and forth on it. It's probably most similar to go-karts. These people are going down a track and the cart is sanitized, and then the next group goes down the track. And the answer I got was that in go-karts, there's several people using several cars at the same time. So I said, well, then maybe we can open up the go-kart tracks for just one car. And you get a funny response. But the point is they're looking into it. They recognize that there may be some inconsistency and hopefully there'll be a little light at the end of the tunnel for certain businesses that are like this Cliffside Coaster. The other one is Santa's Workshop. It's an amusement park up in Wilmington. They were given the go-ahead from the state to reopen. This stuff gets reported in the media. People, it's offensive to something like Six Flags indoor water park that's been told you can't reopen. I raised that to the state, and the story apparently was a little misleading because the story suggested that someone pulled strings with the governor's office and got it reopened. The General Murphy, the control room, said that was probably a little misleading, but they did allow preliminarily, and the state's not approving any safety plan for this, but they're trying to work out a way where Santa's Workshop can be open for under retail and restaurant guidance in a limited capacity that doesn't involve rides, where it's kind of a walkthrough experience. And I said, well, how is that any different from the haunted house that Six Flags wanted to have? That was a walkthrough experience. We ran it to the state. State said, no, you can't do it. It's the same thing. And again, they've acknowledged that there's potentially an issue there where they're going to do some more homework on it and try to get back to us. But this can be a little frustrating. Been a lot of frustration out in the community about it, but hopefully we'll get more information from the state and we'll get that squared away. So that's my report.
Thank you. A report of the county attorney.
I have no report tonight. Thank you.
Reading of communications.
We have Warren County Probation Department reports of criminal and family workloads for the month of August 2020. Audit of basic financial statements of the County of Warren for the year ending December 31, 2019. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting financial reports dated August 30, May 31, June 30, 2020. Letter from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation advising of the recommendation to the New York State Historic Preservation Officer that the Hague Baptist Church be included on the New York State Register of Historic Places and nominated to the National Register of Historic Places. Letter from Christian Hanchett, Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, delegating the authority afforded to him by Civil Service Law Section 75 to discipline or remove the DSS attorney pursuant to the charges dated July 31, 2020 to the Warren County Board of Supervisors. They have Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Court 2019 regular benefit distribution payment number 4 in the amount of $2,100 and the August 2020 surcharge payment in the amount of $4,319. Town of Lake George Resolution number 104 of 2020 entitled Decision on 2021 Sales Tax Funds at County, which indicates the town does not desire to have the county to hold $100,000 of their sales tax revenue for 2021. And Washington County Resolution 208 of 2020 entitled Appointing Member of the Counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation, which mirrors Warren County's prior resolution appointing Michael J. Grasso.
Okay, reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 364 through 396 were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the Warren County website on August 8th. None of those resolutions were amended after mailing. There are 2 floor resolutions to be addressed. These were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors on October 13th and posted to the Warren County website. This met the technical distribution date specified in the rules of the board. In order to entertain these items, a motion and a simple majority vote for each will be needed to bring them to the floor.
Moved by Supervisor Simpson to bring floor resolutions 1 and 2. We can do them at the same time. We have seconded by Supervisor Liggett. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 1 abstention.
Floor resolution number 1 is now resolution number 397. That will be subject to a roll call vote. And floor resolution number 2 is now resolution 398.
Okay, discussion on resolutions. Yes, Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple questions on resolution 384 and 385. Looking at the documents, the backup documents, it states that we're going to authorize the treasurer to advance the fundings for these 2 capital projects. My question to the treasurer is this money, grant money that we already have received, or if we haven't, where are you getting the money to advance these funds in order to establish these capital projects?
Unfortunately, Supervisor, I don't have an answer for you on that question. I wasn't aware, unfortunately missed the finance meeting. I wasn't aware of these 2 coming aboard. But under normal circumstances, I think you could probably ask Kevin Hagos. He has a handle on these things, exactly whether or not he has the money on hand or if we're going to have to front it. And if we do have to front it based on these, it would come out of the general fund.
Would they require a transfer of the fund balance?
Not according to this resolution, no.
No.
Mr. Hagos?
Yeah, these are federal. This is federal aid funding. These are projects that, and with most federal aid funding that the county receives, whether it's highway projects or FAA projects under the airport, they are always established with the county basically on the hook up front. The treasurer's office, based on a past board resolution, books this money on, and then we seek reimbursement after the fact. This is the way that we've been doing this for the last 20 years. They're federal aid projects, and no different than any project I think you might have had, Supervisor Diamond, in the city. Again, you don't have the money up front for the project, or you don't. It's money that's being booked on but gets reimbursed by the granting agency.
Thank you, Kevin. I understand the process completely, and I've been through it, but my question was, where is the money coming from? When we did projects of this magnitude, and I'm not opposed to it, don't take me wrong, but when we transferred monies, we transferred those monies from a specific dedicated account. When I'm reading this resolution, it just says it authorizes the treasurer to transfer $2,257,860 in one project, $49,500 on the other project. It just struck me as, where are we getting the money to do that? That's all. That's why I'm raising this question. I was just kind of interested in where the money was going to come from. Not that I'm opposed again to the project, but I just like to know where we're going to get the money.
It comes from.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and I understand that part of it. Again, I think, and Mike, this may be a question for you, but the bottom line is you guys book the money on, we pay for it out of these capital projects, whether it's from the general fund or not, and then we get reimbursed by whether it's FAA or federal highway or whoever it may be.
Okay. Just as long as we know where the money's coming from.
Any other discussion on 384 or 385? Other resolutions? Any roll call votes?
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a little late, but I would like, and I have a question on resolution 370. 370 is the Green Amendment to the New York State Constitution. And as I read this, and I apologize for the committee for not taking part in the discussion, but I look at the fourth whereas and the very last, well, 3 words, proactively protected. And I'm curious what that means. And maybe that is a question for the county attorney and maybe the county administrator. But my concern is primarily from an economic development standpoint, proactively protected could mean that there's going to be more stringent environmental regulations that could impact our local businesses. And I really don't understand what that means. And I'm just curious about the consequences and whether there are such consequences by those 2 words. And I'm just looking for some insight before this vote happens.
I don't know the answer to that question. I haven't had any part in this resolution.
So with that in mind, I worry about those words, primarily from an economic development standpoint, maintaining our economy. I know a big part is tourism, but we do have manufacturing base also. What is that going to mean? Does it mean that there's new regulations and the cement plant shuts down because all of a sudden we have much more stringent regulations? I don't know. So I'm just bringing that up as a question for the board and maybe some other supervisors who might enlighten us on this.
Supervisor Liggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to Supervisor Wild here on 4th whereas, it begins out. While environmental laws are designed to manage pollution, clean up and remediate contamination, that's closing the barn door after the cows get out. I think that proactively protected means let's do something about it before we need to do manage pollution, clean up, and remediate the contamination. I think it's all within the context of that whereas. That's the way I read it.
So again, if I might, people talk about green energy as far as being green. It's not always as green as what people think. I have background in the wind industry. The wind turbine blades are hundreds of feet long. They are not recyclable. They take up huge amount of space in landfills. So is that green? So the question is, how far does this go and where does it stop? And I'm not against it. I'm not against the notion of clean air, clean water. That's a given. But where are we going with this and what are we signing up for?
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you so much, Chairman. That's great to hear, Supervisor Wild, that you are not against a clean environment, because that is exactly what this resolution is saying that we support from a policy standpoint. And that's really important that our government do protect our right to clean air and clean water proactively, like Supervisor Leggett said, and not waiting until it's too late and trying to clean it up. And we've heard the concerns about that at the committee already, that there are problems out there, and passing this doesn't mean that we don't also need to fix those problems that are already out there. So I think it's that whereas clause, you're really, nitpicking the wording there when it's really a policy position that we're taking. And I think it would be great for Lake George area and Warren County to lead in this effort, as we did earlier in the year when we passed a resolution supporting clean water throughout the state, and particularly in Warren County. So I think it's really important for us to take a step forward and proactively, yes, say that we support the Green Amendment. And really, it's going to go to the voters. So allowing the voters to decide whether or not they want to have this in the Constitution and have us protected from government actions, or if they don't want it in there, they can say that too. But I would think that this board would support it going to the voters for a decision.
And I agree, as long as we get an opportunity to educate everyone in terms of what proactive means. Thank you.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer, I was here and not as a member of your environmental committee, but here when you all discussed this amendment and the resolution, and the presentation was very impactful. I thought it was impressive. I have since received, like many, at least all I can do is speak for Queensberry residents, but many emails regarding this, both in favor of asking for us to pass it, but also against it, and having some additional questions as well. So what I just wanted to address, one of the questions that I saw, and again, certainly, you know, I think on face value, obviously, you know, it's a critical, essential priority that we're all sitting here and we're talking about it. But like you said, ultimately, it's going to become a state issue and a voting, you know, hopefully have that opportunity on the ballot. But what you discussed policy positions, and I guess my question surrounds the finances behind it. You know, there's been other laws that have been discussed at the state level that have not been supportive in terms of financial. So, you know, for instance, a human trafficking bill was put forward year after year after year, but there was no funding that went with that to actually assist victims. So what type of funding is attached to a resolution like this? And I don't see the word financial support anywhere in it, or funding. And I'm just wondering, is that something that the real property, you know, committee could consider, you know, adding into it, or is that being addressed in any way? You know, a request for funding to be able to meet those proactive approaches that you know, you highlighted.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. To be clear, we're not crafting the language of the Green Amendment here. We're just writing a letter or writing a resolution of support. So proactively protected is only our resolution. This is not going into the state's amendment. Point one. Second, I'm not done, Mike. And secondly, you know, there was money. There was a proposal for a bond act to support this, and you know, life changed, and we've had to put that off. So in answer to Rachel's question, or Supervisor Sieber's question, you know, there was money being put up behind this. And hopefully that'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments on 370?
Okay.
Supervisor Simpson.
I've got a question. If, you know, you mentioned government action. You know, there's many municipalities, and I spoke about this in the environmental concerns. There's many municipalities that are struggling with the ability to rectify antiquated wastewater treatment systems that in some instances have regulated overflows of untreated effluent from the wastewater treatment system. Does this create the opportunity for people downstream from those outflows to go after their local government and say, I need action today? I mean, I'm just wondering, you know, we all support clean air, clean water, but we need a solution to the issues. And, you know, we could pass a lot of resolutions that represent things that we demand, but really what we need is solutions. I mean, downstream, those people are negatively impacted. And I just wonder what kind of situation we're setting ourselves up for with this kind of language. I just don't know what the answer. I mean,
Supervisor Sherrill. Good evening. Okay, don't say anything. I think you're muted, John.
All right, sorry, thank you. No, I gave a speech one time. It was titled Why We Need a 29th Amendment. And because the 29th Amendment would be an amendment that addresses our rights to clean air and clean water. And those are fundamental rights. We do. And so I went on to say that the health of our environmental state, the water we drink, the air we breathe, merits our strongest legal protections. Our strongest legal protector is our law. So this Green Amendment is meant to begin that conversation. Where do we want to go with the environment? And we're thinking of, like the Great Law of the Iroquois, all our deliberations must consider the impact on the seventh generation. So we're not looking at just today. We're not looking at tomorrow. We're looking at well beyond that. And we want to make up for the sins of our past. So in case you're wondering, the 28th Amendment was Equal Rights Amendment for women. I think that should be passed. But the 29th Amendment should be one in which addresses our environment and assures clean air and clean water. So I think this is a great starting point for this conversation, the Green Amendment. I don't think that ultimately it will end up the way it starts, but I support the concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll start with Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for one other time on this. If I may, I'd like to propose a modification to this resolution just to strike proactively protected. Like I said, I agree with the concept. I'm wondering about, as Mr. Simpson said, the consequences, and it doesn't come free. So the state and even us as a county now are under stress with our budgets. So if we go too far with proactive, and I agree with Mr. Stroud, we need to protect our environment. We need to protect the future generations. How do you do that? I worry about this protective or proactive clause. So I'd like to see if I can get any support to remove that proactive. And I think then I'd be totally fine with this. So that's my request for an amendment and motion.
So you make a motion to amend Resolution 370. Exactly what do you want to take out?
I just want to strike proactively protected. I don't think it really changes anything. It's just, I'm worried about the proactive piece.
I think it would have to be proactively protected. Then it would make sense.
They're just inalienable.
Do we have a second on that amendment?
I'll make that second.
Seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Discussion on the amendment. Supervisor.
Yeah, I'm going to vote no on this. We are nitpicking this thing to death. At the end of the day, the people of this state are going to vote in mass to go forward, and so we are nitpicking a very, very important issue to death here.
Okay. Any other comments on the amendment?
Yes, please.
Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, Peter, I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we can obtain enough votes through Mike Wild's amending, I can live with that. And nitpicking or not, I think let's not lose sight of the bigger concept here. And so I would urge for you to rethink your no vote and please vote yes on this despite the amendment. I'll support the amendment because if I can get more votes and we can move forward with this, we're still accomplishing the same thing. Thank you.
John, I'm clearly going to support the resolution, but I'm not going to support the changes to it. So.
Any other comments on the amendment? Well, we'll try this. I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Peter is opposed. Rachel's opposed. Supervisor Diamond is opposed. Anyone else opposed? Okay, looks like 3 opposed.
Can I ask that the language after?
Okay. Okay, so the amendment carries. Further discussion on 370? Okay, I'll declare discussion on 370 closed. Any other resolutions? there any public comment on proposed resolutions? Mr. Lehman?
Yes, we do have extensive public comment here on the Green Amendment Resolution. We'll start with an email from Kathy Pedler from Adirondack Mountain Club. Dear Warren County Supervisors, thank you for the work you do serving the people and communities of Warren County. I would like to ask you for your support of the New York State Green Amendment, which had first passage by the state legislature in 2019, Assembly Bill 2064, Senate Bill 2072, and will be up for second passage in 2021. It will then go to a statewide ballot vote in November 2021. This New York State constitutional amendment would add Section 19 to the Article 1 Bill of Rights as follows. Environmental rights. Each person shall have a right to clean air and water and a healthful environment. On September 22nd, the Warren County Environmental Concerns Committee unanimously passed a resolution in support of the New York State Green Amendment. We would be very appreciative if you would also support this resolution. Please also feel free to contact me if you have questions or need more information, and I will forward this email to members of the Board of Supervisors. Ms. Pedler also adds in the chat on YouTube, this amendment means that we protect our water and air when projects and laws are being created before pollution happens. The Green Amendment will ensure that additional pollution is not added to the legacy issues that we have today. The Green Amendment will ensure that decisions are made to keep water clean before an action is taken that may cause environmental impact. A Green Amendment will avoid unnecessary costs and save money. First and foremost, what a Green Amendment does is ensure government considers environmental implications of decision-making as part of the upfront governing process. In this regard, there is no increased out-of-pocket expenditures other than ensuring that environmental impacts are fully and fairly considered. As a result of that reorientation to avoid harm, a Green Amendment will save taxpayers, municipalities, and states money because of the costs, health harms, lost property values, diminished quality of life, and other adverse impacts that pollution and environmental degradation cause will be avoided through improved government decision-making. We also have comments from a user identified as Green Amendments for the Generations. We echo Kathy's request and ask the supervisors to support the right to a clean air and water and a healthful environment. A Green Amendment will actually avoid unnecessary costs and save money. That's all the comments on that resolution. We do have a question about Resolution 395. It's probably best answered by Supervisor Hogan. A commenter identified as Christopher Ogden. Why is the Johnsburg equalization rate so low in Resolution 395?
Christopher, that's an excellent question. We're currently undergoing our very first ever assessment reval, and it'll take 2 years. We are at, I think, 1.9% right now, 1.92, something like that. We've never done a reval in our town, so we will have equity in our assessments in the near future, and thank you for asking.
That is all the comments we have on resolutions.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Don. Next, we have vote on resolutions.
Okay, resolution number 364, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty? Mr. Beatty's giving the thumbs up.
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 365, amending Warren County budget for 2020 for various departments within Warren County. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity, Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 378, amending tables of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2020. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 384, establishing capital project number H402, airport snow removal equipment building construction. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 385, establishing capital project H403, rehabilitation of airfield taxiway lighting system design. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes, and if I could, 386 has been withdrawn. If I could propose that we combine 387 through 391, as they are all returning funds either to the general fund, county road fund, or the machinery fund, or liquidating reserve or assigned fund balances.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm not opposed to that up to 391, but I need a roll call, please, on 391.
Yep, through 390. Okay, thank you.
This roll call is on resolutions 387 through 390. They're all making changes as part of the 2020 deficit reduction plan. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan, Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes.
Those resolutions pass. Resolution 391, authorizing county treasurer to liquidate funds from the assigned fund balance to the Adirondack operations as part of the 2020 deficit reduction plan. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
I recuse. I'm on the SUNY Board of Trustees.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Recuse.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 392, declaring surplus and authorizing sale and transfer of Mid-Atlantic 6-ton tilt bed trailer to the town of Stony Creek from the Department of Public Works. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
yes,
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 393, authorizing the appropriation of funds from the Computer Reserve Fund to various departmental budgets and amending the 2020 Warren County budget. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
yes,
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett? Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. And Resolution 397, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2020. This was for resolution number 1. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
yes,
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Need a collective on the rest.
A collective on the remaining, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor.
Was that last one on roll call? Was that the 397 or the 398?
397. 398 did not require a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Mike,
Supervisor Seaver.
my apologies, Mr. Chairman. I thought both require roll call though. So I just want to put on the record, I would prefer to abstain on both of those resolutions. My apologies.
Any comment from the board members? Any further public comment?
No, Chairman Thomas, no additional public comment at this time.
Okay, announcements? Yes.
I think since you already said this, I believe, Chairman, but I just want to say one time the census, if people can get to it like tonight.
Right, it has to be done by tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
But although I think you could probably get it done by Friday.
Yeah.
From what I read. Any other announcements? Yes, Supervisor Hobie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anyone who's come to North Creek has seen our beautiful mosaic wall. And this Sunday at 3:30, we are passing a real milestone. We're going to have the last piece ceremony. Artist Kate Hartley has worked on this wall. It's a series of retaining walls that are all done in a beautiful themed mosaic. She's been working on this project for over a decade. And I just wanted to invite you all. If you can come and wear a mask and socially distance, you're welcome to join us at 3:30 on Sunday. But also to recognize Kate's extraordinary dedication to this project. She's been out there in the rain and the sun for a decade. And we are so lucky to have this piece of public art here in town. So I just really wanted everyone to recognize her for that achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, as I mentioned, our next meeting is Friday, November 6th at 10 a.m. That's the presentation for Budget Officer of the tentative 2021 budget. So with that, a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Moved by Supervisor Garrity, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned.